HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Owner's Manual to Life, in case you missed that day in school when they handed it out. Simple Strategies to Worry Less and Enjoy Life More, by Michael Zajaczkowski. Read by Michael Zajaczkowski. Dedication. To my darling wife, Key, I am a better man, in every way, because of you. Acknowledgements. Writing seems to be a solitary process. As writers, we develop an idea for a book, begin crafting that idea into sentences and paragraphs, and finally produce what we believe to be the finished manuscript. What we come to discover, however, is that it is only through the dedication and caring help of others that the work becomes the polished vision we had for it from the beginning. I'm grateful to many people who devoted countless hours to make this manuscript the book you have today. To start with, I'd like to thank my wife, Key Han, with whom I discussed innumerable ideas and quotes, and who made gentle and loving suggestions that gave me the inspiration I needed to say what I truly meant. Thank you, darling Key, for always being willing to patiently read it just one more time. Next, I'd like to thank my sister-in-law, Lori Brooks, who read a few of the early quotes and gave me important feedback that helped me position myself properly within the material and allowed me to give it the clarity and honesty I intended. I'm also grateful for the readers and editors who helped guide the writing to where it needed to go. First, thank you, Linda Maynard, for being so willing to read my initial draft, for coming over to my home to pick up the manuscript, and for bringing it back to me with your helpful and insightful comments. I've benefited from your editorial help twice now, and your crucial direction and intuition on my other book was life-saving. Thank you. And thank you, Bridget Fogarty, for taking the time to carefully read the final manuscript, and for not only catching the things I missed, but for also pointing out those passages that were either unclear or that needed better or different examples. Your willingness to get involved with this book has made it so much better. And a special thanks goes out to Shauna Vick, who, from the very beginning, dived in and became the editor I didn't even know I needed. Shauna, your diligent and discerning work, the hours you put into this manuscript, despite all your other responsibilities, and your line-by-line comments, suggestions, and changes transform my initial manuscript into the polished book it is today. Thank you for challenging me and for encouraging me to own it and to write the best book I was capable of. I would also like to thank the many people I have met, worked with, and who allowed me to be part of their lives over the years. You have all taught me so much about life and how to live it honestly and with compassion and understanding. I'm also indebted to the various people whose quotes I gained so much wisdom from and from whom I gathered so many valuable insights. I endeavor to give full and proper credit where due, and any mistakes in attribution lie solely with me. I apologize in advance for any errors. Finally, I'd like to thank the diligent and creative team at Health Communications Incorporated, HCI, including Larissa Hannock, who designed such a stunning cover and willingly turned out several versions to help get it just right. The careful copy editors and proofreaders whose attention to detail helped turn out the best manuscript possible, and everyone else who invested so much and lent a loving hand to produce such a beautiful book. And special thanks to Christine Bellaris, who championed this book from the very beginning, carefully proofread and made invaluable suggestions, and who had the faith to make it an HCI title. I'm grateful to you all. Introduction. We either make ourselves miserable or we make ourselves strong. The amount of work is the same. Carlos Castaneda. Have you ever noticed how some people handle life more gracefully than others? How they seem to be more easygoing, are quick to smile and laugh, and how they're able to worry less and enjoy life more. Whenever the inevitable problem or situation comes up in their lives, they become more composed. They take their time and think about their options. talk to others who have had similar problems, and, when they're ready, they try the first solution. If that doesn't work, they have a backup plan or two in place, and they calmly go about trying another until it works. It's as if they intuitively know how to handle things, as if they had a chip installed that came with an encyclopedia of all possible scenarios, along with the various answers and solutions, and they seem to possess the patience and presence of mind to try them. They also seem to know how to appreciate the things around them more. They appear more centered. They smile often and don't take things too seriously. If we used a word to describe them, we'd say they were happy, and they knew peace and contentment. It's as though they were given an owner's manual to life a long time ago, and they studied it carefully. And have you ever noticed other people who treat life's problems as if they were one emergency after another? Instead of coping mechanisms and problem-solving skills, these people default to states of worry or fearing the worst or self-defeating self-talk like, "Why me?" or "Why does something always have to go wrong?" It's as if a lifetime of experiencing problems has conditioned them to imagine that a black cloud follows them and them only, and that any chance of peace or contentment is slim, if possible at all. Moreover, rather than learning from the last problem or situation, each time a new one comes up, as they always do, it starts a familiar cascade of negative thinking that doesn't encourage solution finding and robs them of the calm they need to maintain the right perspective and find some peace and even humor as they move through their daily life. It's as if they missed that day in school when the teacher handed out the instruction manual to life, and with that, they missed the strategies they needed to live life with more peace, joy, and contentment. In reality, many of us fall somewhere between the two extremes, though if we admit it, we probably spend more time in the second group than we'd like. The good news is that since we have all experienced those times when we did learn and leverage some experience from the past, when we did solve a problem without letting it drive us crazy, it means that we do have the capacity for better problem solving, and perhaps all we need is a bit more instruction and some examples that can help us, and that's where this guide comes in handy. The Owner's Manual to Life is the missing manual many of us haven't had access to before. It's the book of problem solving that those with the most grace and patience use regularly and have memorized to help them through the occasional storm that blows by, or for the seemingly constant minor annoyances and problems we all face. You'll find 100 tips, strategies, and proven ways of responding to life that will instantly give you the toolkit you'll need to both adjust your perspective and handle problems and situations the way you've always wanted to. Once you learn these solutions and begin trying them in your life, what you'll find is that you no longer dread problems or be thrown out of whack emotionally. Rather, you'll accept them for what they are, simply a natural part of living. Moreover, you'll see them for what they can be, opportunities to learn and grow and become wiser. And the wiser you are, the more you'll be able to relax and let go of things that might be making you unhappy. In addition, the Owner's Manual to Life is also filled with tips to help you truly enjoy life more, to remind you to stop and smell the roses, and to take in the immense beauty and joy that we tend to overlook or take for granted. Writing this book has been a transformative experience for me. While I've been using these techniques for years, by collecting them all in one place and revisiting their usefulness in my life and in the lives of others, I've rediscovered their worth and the wisdom they hold. Midway through the writing of this book, I began observing my tendencies when out in public, and it's taught me, once again, to be more patient and much kinder toward others, and to be grateful for what I have. I was at a matinee movie the other day with my wife, for example, and there was an older couple at the concession stand in front of us. They were in their 80s, and the husband, who was using a walker, ordered and moved at a glacial pace. We had arrived late, and my first impulse was to try to hurry them along, or at the very least cast an impatient stare their way. But I remembered the quote I had just written that day: "Be kind. Everyone you meet is fighting a great battle." the one about practicing patience and understanding. In that moment, I was able to rein in my hurried tendency and instead shift my attention to having empathy for what others are going through. As I did, I observed what a tremendous struggle it was for them to just order a popcorn, soda, and nachos, and how difficult it was for them to carry these into the movie theater. He was experienced with this as he set them all on the seat of his walker and slowly steered them into the theater. By just taking a couple of deep breaths, I slowed down and got to a place of gratitude for my own life. I looked at my naturally patient wife, and she smiled up at me, and in that moment I shifted my attention, and a new appreciation washed over me. Here I was in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon at a movie with my wife, a true luxury in itself. And, of course, we had plenty of time to catch the final trailer and start enjoying our popcorn and sodas. I thought about that brief experience, and I realized that, yet again, the wisdom in these simple strategies is always available to me, and they will always make my life better when I remember to use them. This is what I hope you receive from this book: new tools and tips to live your life with less stress and instead to live it more gracefully, more mindfully, and with an increased awareness of and appreciation for the joy that is available to you whenever you slow down to see it. I also hope the wisdom in this book inspires you to do more than just listen to it. I hope it encourages you to interact with it, to remember your favorite passages, and to write down some quotes from chapter titles so you can return to them again and again. I resisted the urge to categorize the material because I wanted the book to be new and fresh each time you visit it. That way, a forgotten passage might speak to you and offer you the tip or strategy just when you need it most. Life truly is rich and full of wondrous presents, and as one of the sayings reminds us, it's up to us to untie the ribbons of these gifts each day. Having this owner's manual with you as you go through life's journey will help you smooth out the bumps in the road you encounter, and, hopefully, the peaks and valleys you may experience now will soon become gentle rolling hills instead. 1. Is that a bad thing? When things don't go our way, or when something happens that we consider to be a bad thing, we can sometimes become annoyed or upset. Once time has passed and we have the benefit of perspective, however, we often find out later that it wasn't such a bad thing after all. Once, while working as a consultant out of my home office, the internet went out right in the middle of a huge project. I thought it was the end of the world rather than just an annoyance, and I worried and stressed myself silly, spent hours finding a new router, and then waited impatiently for an IT guy to install it. When all was said and done, however, I found something I hadn't expected. I now had much better internet coverage throughout my entire house. Later that night, my wife and I processed this experience, and we realized that what at first seemed to be a disaster turned out to be a blessing in disguise. My wife looked at me and said, maybe having the internet go out wasn't such a bad thing after all. From that experience, we came up with a saying we now use whenever something unexpected or what we used to consider bad comes up. We simply look at the situation and ask ourselves, is that a bad thing? Meeting so-called problems or situations with this new awareness and attitude will transform your life. Now, when something breaks, goes out, or doesn't go the way we planned, and it could be a small thing like the faucet leaking, or a bigger thing like a vacation being canceled, we instantly ask, is that a bad thing? Then we shift our attention and begin looking for the ways the situation can be improved, or search for new opportunities that might go even better for us. When we do, we often find better upgrades for what we had, or newer, improved ways of doing what we had planned. After doing this now for years, we've discovered that just because something doesn't go the way we thought it should, it doesn't mean that it didn't go the best way it could. Everyone has experiences like this, and I'm sure you can think back to earlier disappointments that, in the end, turned out to be a good thing as well. By adopting this new attitude, you will discover a much better way of dealing with the inevitable changes life presents you with. By developing the habit of asking, Is that a bad thing? You'll be able to see past the obstacles that used to frustrate you and make you unhappy. Plus, you'll now be on the lookout for better ways to improve your life and your life experience. 2. Stop comparing and judging. Start identifying and connecting. Let's face it, people are different. They'll do things you won't agree with, hold certain beliefs that will be the complete opposite to what you believe, and they'll act in ways that, at times, might seem deliberately hurtful, disrespectful, or just plain nuts. People are people, which means they have limitations, and sometimes we all scratch our heads over their decisions, actions, or attitudes. By the way, this includes your family members, your kids, spouse, and even yourself on occasion. Whenever I'm faced with a difficult person, or when someone is acting in a way I don't approve of, I always remember the Native American proverb that says, "Never judge another man until you've walked a mile in his moccasins." What this reminds me of is that I have no idea of the challenges this person has had to deal with in their life. I have no idea of their upbringing or the prejudice they may have been taught or experienced as a child. I know nothing of their education or lack of education, nor of the life pressures they may be under. Who knows? Given what they've had to overcome, I could be much worse if I were dealt the same circumstances. They may be doing remarkably well, all things considered. And once I think about these things, really take them in, and weigh them against what I don't know about someone, I begin to move past my own judgment. And this allows me to start identifying. It doesn't take much self-searching to realize there have been times when I've acted in a similar way to what I may be objecting to right now. Certainly, if I don't agree with a person's opinion, that means I feel just as strongly about an opposite point of view, and to that person, I may be considered just as wrong as I think they are. Same thing with actions I may find rude or insensitive. For example, whenever I see someone throw a cigarette out of a car window, my first reaction is to judge, "Oh, how disrespectful that is." Then I remind myself that when I was smoking many years ago, I undoubtedly did the same thing and never gave it a second thought. Once I start looking for ways to identify with someone, to make an attempt to understand the circumstances that shape them, I begin looking for the similarities between us. We all have a need for security and health, and we all carry love in our hearts for our families and look after them the best we know how. Most people pursue a spiritual or religious path and have the same questions I do about our purpose and meaning of life. As I look for what's the same in others, it makes it easier to get to know them, to engage with them, and to even learn from them. This willingness to identify is the beginning of true compassion. As I get to the place of acceptance of another person, state, or even country, I begin searching for the connection between us, and I see the truth in our common experience. While we may all wear different moccasins, we're all walking a similar path called life. And in this life, the journey is much easier for us all if we strive to identify and concentrate on how we're the same rather than on how we're different. 3. You grow up the day you have your first real laugh at yourself. Ethel Barrymore. Many of us take life very seriously. We are constantly on guard to present our best selves to people, and we're deathly afraid of looking bad or not having the right answers. As children, our parents teach us to dress and act right and to have proper manners. As we become teenagers, the need to be cool and part of the in crowd is painfully important to us. It doesn't get easier in college either. Suddenly, the competition for attention, for grades, and for looking better than everyone else increases. After graduation, when we enter the job market, and as we begin seriously dating and trying to find the right spouse, we continue to compare and compete. There is tremendous pressure on us to grow up and become adults, and it can take a long time to learn how to be comfortable just being ourselves. I remember the first time I had a good laugh at myself. While eating out with a group of people, I struggled to open a ketchup bottle, and someone close to me pointed out that I had made a mess of my shirt and hadn't noticed. As the group began giggling at me, I felt my cheeks flush with embarrassment, As I glanced down at the sauce splattered on my white shirt, it suddenly occurred to me that it was pretty funny. Hilarious, even. When I looked back up at the group of people trying to contain their amusement and cover their smiles, I instantly felt the urge to laugh along with them, so I did. Once they saw I wasn't taking offense at them enjoying the scene I'd made, they laughed even more, and soon tears were running down my cheeks. That's how hard I was laughing. I'm smiling even now as I remember this. In that moment, I had the first real laugh at myself, and I felt the relief of years of trying to look good melt away. I felt a freedom I hadn't experienced before. I guess that is what growing up feels like. What it comes down to is not taking yourself too seriously. Once you have that first good laugh at yourself, and then many more later, you realize that life is best worn as a loose garment. Things really aren't as serious as we think they are, and everyone makes mistakes, more than we'd like to admit. No one is perfect, and one of my favorite expressions is, even monkeys fall out of trees. Once you release yourself from trying to look perfect all the time, you give yourself more room to experiment, more permission to try new things, and the freedom to just be you. When you learn to laugh at yourself and take things less seriously, other people become more attracted to you as well. They, too, will feel comfortable being themselves around you, and they'll be able to relate to you more. Remember, we're all in this together, just doing the best we can. Sometimes that's pretty funny to watch. 4. Trying to meditate is the same thing as meditating. Meditation is an invaluable tool to deepen our spiritual practices, as well as reduce stress and become more centered, and as a way of developing mindfulness and living more in the present. Those who have developed a regular practice often say that meditation is as important in their daily lives as eating or sleeping. If you have tried meditating, then you may have glimpsed the peaceful feelings you get as the world slows down and you learn to let go. Yet again, you may also have experienced how difficult it is to get your mind to stay in one place, even for a few seconds. Ping! Another text has arrived. As you grab your phone to see who it is, you notice you also have 3 new emails. As you swipe to see who they're from, you see alerts of new posts on your social media feeds or updates on breaking news stories. This is just the activity on your phone. Our minds have been conditioned to multitask, to always be on the go, so retraining them to be still, focused, quiet, even for a few minutes, seems like an impossible task. Thankfully, just attempting to slow down and meditate, regardless of whether you're successful at it, is the same as actually doing it, and it will give you the same benefits. A spiritual teacher I worked with years ago explained it to me this way. He asked if I decided to take up tennis, invested in a racket, learned the rules, and then played regularly, would I consider myself a tennis player? I suppose, I said, but not a very good one. But he said, "You're still playing tennis, right?" I admitted I was. He told me it's the same with meditating. If I developed a regular time to get quiet, showed up each day, set my timer, and started counting my breaths and watching my thoughts glide by, then I'd be meditating. Like playing tennis, some days I'd do better than others, yet overall I'd still benefit from doing it regularly. Explained in this way, I was able to let go of my expectations and judgments about how I was doing it, and I just started doing it. Each morning, I'd show up and sit as still as I could and begin counting my breaths. If I lost count, I'd simply go back to 1 and start over. Some days 10 minutes would fly by, while other days 2 minutes seemed like 20, and it was difficult to keep my mind from jumping all over the place. Even though I wasn't doing it perfectly, I realized that I was indeed meditating. I found that each quiet period I spent trying to meditate changed me for the better. Life seemed less urgent. I became more present and was even able to appreciate some of the small moments of magic that are in each day. If you've wondered about meditating, or even tried it a few times and failed at it, I urge you to try again. Just the act of sitting down and attempting to watch your thoughts enter and leave your head, while you count your breaths and slow down, will help you develop some space, and a sense of peace will enter your life. Just remember, the moment you try to do something, you're doing it. If you keep at it, the benefits will always follow. 5. Happiness is pretty simple. Someone to love, something to do, something to look forward to. Rita Mae Brown. This is one of my favorite quotes because of its simplicity and the depth of its wisdom. Someone to love reminds me that I am happiest when I have someone else to think about and to care for. In addition to the powerful gift love gives us both, the reason this allows me to feel happiness is that when I'm focused on others, I'm not thinking about myself. And the less I'm thinking about myself, my problems or the things I don't have or won't get, etc., the more peace and contentment I have. The second part, something to do, reminds me of a quote by Mark Twain. To be busy is man's only happiness. I don't know about you, but if I wake up on a Saturday with a list of activities or a plan for the day, I wake up energized with a purpose. On the other hand, if I have nothing to do, I tend to be lethargic, unfocused, and my mind tends to find things to worry about. It's like what works with kids. Structure always provides security and comfort. Every day, I make sure I have a plan, or at least options, even if that plan is to read and nap on the couch in the afternoon. This leads to the third part, something to look forward to. Whether it's the weekend, your next vacation, or your kids' school play, having something to look forward to helps give meaning and payoff to the work and responsibilities we all have. This is why I always have a trip, even if it's just a 3-day weekend, planned and placed on the calendar. I think about it and look forward to the break. My wife and I talk about and enjoy planning it weeks in advance. Something to look forward to breaks up the monotony our daily grind can become and makes life enjoyable and worthwhile. So, if you're not feeling happy or motivated these days, just review this simple recipe for happiness. Consider what you can add or change in your life. Any of these 3 ingredients will make an immediate impact on your level of happiness and contentment. 6. Remember, success is a journey, not a destination. It is a common experience to look back fondly to our college days. The camaraderie, the student lounges, the quads, the football games in the fall, and so much more. We also remember how we couldn't wait for finals to be over, to graduate and finally begin real life, to get our first job and start climbing the ladder of success. Success that was once defined by getting that college diploma, however, was quickly replaced with getting that promotion, or that new home, or marrying him or her and having kids and so on. Now that some of us are much further down the road of life, we look back wistfully to those innocent years in college, those carefree days, or so they seem now, and wish we could wander down to the student center one more time and order a latte, and then curl up with the classic book assigned in our English Lit class. Oh, the good old days. I could paint the same scenario about my professional career, entering as an intern, going independent and establishing my own business, longing, struggling, wishing to be successful already. We can apply this wanting to reach our destination to many other situations in our lives, big and small. Having kids, waiting for them to grow up or grow out of that phase, move out, establish their own path, get married, and so on. On a smaller scale, we can't wait for that upcoming vacation, then to the next country or hotel, then home and on to planning the next one. But in our drive to reach the various destinations in life, sure that once we finally achieve this or that we'll be happy or acknowledged or free, we often find the next destination tempting us, promising us that this will be the one to complete us. Accomplish this, it seems to say, and you will have finally arrived, though we all know the truth, don't we? The hardest thing, it seems, is to learn to enjoy the journey. As the train of life barrels down the tracks, too few of us remember to look out and enjoy the passing scenery. We fail to look around the carriage and visit with our fellow passengers. We neglect the precious moments we spend in the car, fail to feel the binding of the books in our laps. These little things, however, are what make up the journey of life. the journey toward the success that we mistake as the destination.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?